Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sunday Matinee. I'm your host, Ben Stahl. It is March 1st. It's actually a Monday. We're doing another day late recording, but that's all good. So today with me, I have Larice Roberts. Hello, Larice. Welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm really glad to be here.
So, like just about everyone who's been on here, Larice is another one of our glorious South Sound theater people, which just goes to show that my circle of friends is pretty much focused in one spot. But whatever.
I mean, we're
So,
awesome, so.
yeah, we're all cool here. So before we get to the main topic today, I'm gonna go through the news real quick. So first up in the news, this would have been a perfect topic for the Simon Pegg episode that we did 2 weeks ago. Edgar Wright is developing a new adaptation of Stephen King's The Running Man, supposedly going to be more faithful to the book. I've never seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. I just assume that it is an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. So next up, this one is really cool because this is a DC character that I look forward to seeing. Angel Manuel Soto has been tapped to direct Blue Beetle for DC, so that should be fun. And it is the newer Blue Beetle, not the original. So that is something that y'all should know if you're a fan of that particular character. More comic book news here. And this one, I think a lot of people are going to have fun with. Loki officially has a release date on Disney Plus, June 11th. 11 days later than the May release date we were given initially, but I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. So, and given how fun WandaVision has been so far and how crazy Loki looks, I think Marvel's going to have, probably another weird hit on their hands. And speaking of Marvel, so one of the biggest bits of news this week, Spider-Man 3 has officially been titled No Way Home. After plenty of teases and what have you, they finally let us know what's going on. And then Tom Holland broke the news that his contract as Peter Parker is up after this film, which that kind of sucks. I like Tom Holland in the role. He wants to come back. I'm sure there'll probably be some negotiations going on. But even if we lose Tom Holland, there will always be a Spider-Man. I mean, heck, Sony Animation has got a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse coming up. So, we're not going to be lacking for a Spider-Man. All right. So on the streaming news, Paramount has answered an important question as to how they're going to be dealing with the pandemic with some of their theatrical releases. Big releases, A Quiet Place 2 and Mission Impossible 7 will now be streaming on Paramount Plus 45 days after their theatrical release. So that'll be great if by the time those films are out, we are still stuck in this horrific state that we're in. If not, I will gladly try and catch those in the theater. Those are two films I'm looking forward to, especially A Quiet Place, because that was a good one. Speaking of Paramount, so Nickelodeon has teamed up with the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra to form Avatar Studios, and they're going to be focusing solely on new shows and films set in that universe. They've already announced a new animated film, so I'm very excited about that. Those are two excellent animated series that everyone should check out. They're both on Netflix right now. Do not check out the live action Last Airbender movie.
No.
It is absolute garbage. Yeah. All right. So coming up here, we also have Neil Blomkamp has announced that he is working on District 10, the sequel to District 9, which sounded great to me at first, but on the other hand, it's been over 10 years, and his two movies that followed, I was not as impressed with, Elysium and Chappie, but I adore District 9, and I hope this one can live up to the success of the original, because that was a good one. And finally, the last bit of news that broke over this weekend, and we're going back to DC here. Superman is getting another reboot. This one is going to be it's going to be written by author Ta-Nehisi Coates, and J.J. Abrams is going to produce. That is all we know about it. Everyone's asking, is Henry Cavill coming back? Is it going to be set in the same timeline as blah, blah, blah? I don't know. I just hope that it's good because Superman films have been really rough for a long time. I never saw the Christopher Reeve films. They were, just slightly before my time. But from what I've heard, Superman 1 and 2 are still kind of the gold standard of films for the character, which is a shame because I actually enjoy Henry Cavill as an actor. I thought he really knocked it out of the park in Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that no one can figure out how to write Superman right now for film. It's rough.
It's so interesting how it's like not quite, it just doesn't quite hit with modern audiences. It's so strange because you think of Superman as like a quintessential superhero.
Yeah, he's sort of the baseline for like all comic book superheroes. And you'd think, well, if you'd think Marvel managed to get Captain America right, like, and he's sort of not necessarily in terms of abilities, but sort of like personality wise, like the Superman of Marvel Comics. And it's like, okay, just how do you keep getting Superman wrong? We don't need him to be brooding the whole time.
No,
That
nobody
is a
wants a
huge problem.
broody Superman.
No.
And nobody, I mean me.
Oh, you're not the only one. I'm even getting tired of broody Batman. A little bit of broody Batman is fine, but the Zack Snyder approach just hasn't been working. So that is the news for the week. So I'm going to open up here, sort of on a main topic, with a statement. So it is March 1st. We're out of February, and February, of course, is Black History Month. Anyone who has been following the Sunday Matinee on Facebook or Twitter has probably been seeing, trying to post every day. Sometimes I miss and have to double post, but 28 posts profiling Black filmmakers, actors, anyone who's made significant contributions to the film and television. And now we're out of that. And I think it's actually appropriate to be recording this episode in March now, because it's sort of, I want to get this point across, is just because Black History Month is over doesn't mean we should stop celebrating these artists at all. We should not stop being aware of them. And all Black artists, whether it be in all forms of art. And we as I'll speak as a white person, I should be doing a good job at amplifying Black voices. Now, what that means is don't ask for speaking, don't ask for knowledge. But when someone is willing to share their knowledge, that's when you hit the retweet right there. And I tell you right now, I'm also a pretty big gamer, and right now, Black gamers and Black content creators are some of the best people to follow. They are just doing such amazing, prolific work, and they're so cool. They're just so cool. I love it. So that's sort of what this episode is supposed to be about, is a culmination of all of what happened last month. So let's get to it. Usually I say this is gonna be a fun episode. This episode could run the emotional gamut, because we are going to be talking about Chadwick Boseman, and we have talked about him on the show a little bit. We did the best and worst of 2020 episode, and he came up there. And it's something that has affected so many of us in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. So, my goodness. So Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick
I'm not
Boseman.
going to get into his personal details or his personal life. That's not what we're here to talk about. He, outside of film, he's definitely an awesome human being. That is for sure. But what we're going to talk about is his contribution to film and television, and I'll just go over really quickly. Like a lot of actors, he got his start doing a lot of television. And I was surprised. Like I've got the IMDb list here, and going back, he just showed up in a lot of different television shows. And last year, I one of the first shows I ended up binging once we were all stuck inside was Fringe,
Ah,
and
yes, yes.
yeah, and I was absolutely shocked to see him pop up in, I believe it was either season 2 or 3, and
I
it's like,
think it
oh
was
my
season
god,
two.
I was like, oh my gosh, I
Same.
watched this show back in the day and had no idea, back in 2011, because
See, I
you know
didn't. I didn't. And like my sister Lydia did, and basically when the pandemic started, that was like one of our first like binges of the pandemic for me was Fringe and getting caught up in that. And one, I couldn't believe that I had missed it during the first go round. But two, yeah, I was very pleased and like surprised like when he showed up. I was like, wait, is that Chadwick Boseman? And so it was really nice to see him in a few episodes.
so that was the big one for me. Like he also appeared on episodes of other shows that I watched. Apparently he was on Lie to Me, Castle. He was on an episode of Castle, Justified. I think he
Interesting.
was on an episode of House, which that's less surprising. Everyone was on House at some point. Um, but he did also, let me get this. I want to make sure I get the title right. He was actually on 2 shows as a regular, before he did 42, and that was, oh, come on, IMDb app.
Oh, is it Lincoln Heights?
Lincoln Heights is one of them. Yeah.
Lincoln Heights and Persons Unknown. When you said I just pulled it up, so I would have it too.
Yep. And there we go. They're right there. I got you. You beat me to it. Yeah. So those are 2 shows that I may have to look up and go back and see, because especially Persons Unknown, because that looks like it's another weird sci-fi show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Maybe we'll have
loved
to
I
watch
would
that and catch up with each other and see what we think.
because yeah, I got to find out. Yeah, are they streaming on something I have, or do I have to go the weird route? Um, so
Okay, so yeah, I remember Persons Unknown only because I remember watching the pilot and not really feeling like it was gonna make it.
well, it did only last a season, so your instinct was not wrong. So,
Yes.
but that means it'll be easy to catch up on. So, I think for most people out there, well, I won't say most. Most people probably, their first experience was probably Black Panther. But for me, it was 42.
Mm.
Laurice, what was the first movie you remember seeing?
Probably 42 with him as Jackie Robinson. Yeah.
And I remember, I'm of all the sports out there, baseball is easily my favorite. Um, so this was a no-brainer for me, and I had such a good time with this one, and just getting out of there and thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is going places.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
the intensity with the intensity in his eyes, but at the same time, and this is just going to come up like in just about everything he does, is just the most beautiful smile.
Right? It's very magnetic.
So, and I was just blown away by it. Yeah, my dad and I saw it, and then like it's one of those ones I had to go out and buy day one. And I thought that I'd sat down with the entire family and watched it, but apparently my sister hadn't seen it, and so I had to show that to her while she was home over the summer.
Hmm.
Said, that was actually um, like on August 28th, the day he passed.
Hmm.
You know, my sister was like, "Are we gonna? Do we watch Black Panther tonight?" And I said, "Well, maybe." And I asked her, "Have you seen 42?" She said,
Hmm.
"No." So I said, "You have to see this.
Wow.
This is the one. Like, if not for 42,
Hmm.
we may not have seen him as the Black Panther." So
That is certainly true. And I mean, even just like realizing like how hard he worked and that, he studied, I mean, ultimately, he was given a stunt double, but he was mad about it because he had studied, enough baseball that he felt like he could, accurately play Jackie Robinson, which I feel is like, dang, like can you imagine having that commitment, like to, you're not a baseball player, but you're going to study enough so that you can accurately play Jackie Robinson. That's amazing to me.
yeah, just having to learn, his batting stance or just his technique, and that's to me, and that's also just something that I've never had to. I don't know about you. I've never had to do anything like that because all the characters I've played have all been fictional. I've never had
Right.
to portray someone and like, oh man, I need to go learn about this person and maybe figure out exactly what it is that they physically do. And it's like, oh man, yeah.
Right.
And
I mean, like, I read he was watching the stunt double and he would be like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. I studied this and like, come on, let me do it.
so yeah, that was. And gosh, who else? Was there anyone else in there?
In the movie, let's see.
Let's see.
Mm,
To start out, well, first off, to start out alongside Harrison Ford, that's
hmm.
to stand toe to toe with him is an
Yeah.
impressive feat. Like, I remember when Catherine and I watched it, I'd actually forgotten Harrison Ford was even in it.
Hmm.
That's just
And that's how
all.
amazing that is.
Yeah, it's like I don't. It's like I don't remember much about any other character just because it's like, man, it's just Chadwick. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
even Alan Tudyk is in it as a terrible human being, and it's like,
Mm-mm-mm.
but nope, it's all Chadwick in this one.
For sure. For sure. I mean, and like for that to be like one of his biggest um and first roles is, and definitely one of it's just amazing for him to have had that kind of magnetism.
And that would actually that's going to become a theme talking about these next few movies because
For sure.
his next, he was also, and I'm looking at IMDb, and these are some movies that I didn't haven't bothered to see because you know they're not him. Like he was in Draft Day, and it just scrolled down.
Oh.
It's like, oh, he doesn't look like he's the star of Draft Day. And it's like, and I don't need to watch a Kevin Costner film. So I really wanted to. So like his next big film was Get On Up.
Like, can you
Uh,
imagine following that up? Like following up, like playing one icon to playing like a next huge icon. Like it's crazy town.
yes, it is. And once again, he just dove right into it. Like seeing him dance is just it's beautiful. And it
It
also
really
hurts my
is.
knees, but it's beautiful.
Yes, exactly. I agree with that. Um, yeah, yeah, get on up, man. I mean, James Brown, another like super huge icon, and to even like you go from like basically being an unknown actor and then getting some huge, huge roles that are actual like real people, so you really want to give them justice and do them justice. Like I can't even imagine the pressure of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and man, I'm glad he gave a dynamite performance in this one too, because I'll be perfectly honest, like if it wasn't for him, like I don't think this movie would have been as good because for me the script was all over the map.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I had a hard time following the story just because they bounced back and forth in his life so much that
Hmm.
it was a little tough to keep track. But man,
And
he's just go
I
ahead.
get like, oh,
Mhm.
sorry, I get like that was like the asynchronous style of that was supposedly, you know, very much indicative of James Brown, but it doesn't necessarily make for an always coherent, cohesive movie.
Agreed. And I also felt like there were a lot of plot points that sort of felt unresolved by the end. But
Hmm.
oof, just to see him and acting through that makeup in the opening and the later scenes, just I cannot. It's so hard to put to words what he does.
Hmm.
Like,
It's almost completely immersive. You know what I mean? Like you are watching James Brown. You're not watching Chadwick Boseman play James Brown, but like you're watching an iteration of James Brown, you know?
yep, because not only does he nail the dancing, he nails the singing.
Yeah,
Sounds so good.
right? Like that's amazing. Like who could know?
So his next big film would be Captain America: Civil War, but we're going to jump over that because we're going to talk all about Black Panther a little bit later.
Okay.
I will say, just scrolling through IMDb, it's kind of a shame that to see that he was in Gods of Egypt, but
I never
we
saw
all
that.
I didn't either. I as soon as it was like as soon as I saw it was what Gerard Butler and Nicolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones as
Mm,
Egyptians, I was like, no,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
can skip over this.
Gonna pass on that.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, I hear that.
So, and I get it. I get it. We all, I get it, Chadwick. We all end up doing that one movie that we may look back on and say, oh well, that
That
that that
happened.
that paid the bills. Let's never do it again. Um,
Yeah, let's not
so
talk about it.
yeah. So now we're gonna go in between his first two appearances as Black Panther to again playing another iconic human being in Marshall as
Exactly.
Thurgood Marshall. I mean, good lord,
Right.
this was looking to be his like a wild pattern.
I mean, I can't imagine you got, baseball, music, and then like American history. Like it's just crazy. Not to keep using that word, unfortunately. Sorry. Mm.
And
It
yeah,
is pretty amazing. Yeah.
once again, he just dives right into it. And my only complaint about him in this movie is that I feel like he may be top bill, but he feels so wildly underused.
Mm. That's one I haven't seen all the way through. Um, so I mean, I've seen clips of it, and I know the synopsis of the film, but I have not seen that one all the way through.
And and I understand in the courtroom scenes why he feels so underused because of course, in the reality of it is Thurgood Marshall was not allowed to speak in that trial. And it's like
Mm.
that's extraordinarily extraordinarily frustrating and just
Yeah. Yeah.
to put it lightly. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's interesting. Even like with so little, sorry to cut you off, but even with so little of him in actuality, like speaking, like he's still such a presence in that.
and thankfully, there's plenty of non-courtroom scenes for him to absolutely. Again, it's his dang movie, and he's sitting there with. He's got James Cromwell in there, and he's working with all these veterans, and it's like, man, he's still at this point, 2017, he's still the young freshman, in the group, and he is just
Killing it.
absolutely showing off. Yeah, absolutely showing off what it is that he can do.
Hmm. Yeah. God. James Cromwell. Love James Cromwell.
So we're gonna fast forward to 2020, this year, which
Mm.
has given us two amazing performances, and both on Netflix of all places.
Hmm.
First in Spike Lee's Defy Bloods, which um, he only has precious few minutes of screen time, but my God,
Yeah.
the scene where they find out about Martin Luther King and the
Mm.
speech he gives is, I mean, first off, that's just absolute perfect Spike Lee dialogue right there for
Right.
sure.
Quintessentially perfect.
And just his delivery of it is like
It's pretty
I
spot
can't.
on.
It's yeah, that is a film that just absolutely smacked me in the face in the best possible way.
Hmm.
Yep, this is this is just the absolute shit show that we as a country keep going through,
Hmm.
and we need to do better for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and just even thinking about that, this is like one of his last two films before he died, and like knowing that, you know, doing that role while so sick, it's just, it's amazing to just think about like having that kind of presence of mind, like just to be able, one, to like be like to do your damn job like so freaking well. You know what I mean? Like just at the top of your game and to have been, just been so sick. That's it's heartbreaking, and it just really speaks to a lot about him as a person and a lot to his talent.
Absolutely. And I will say though, it also just speaks to just sort of the expectations that we put on too many people to
Yeah.
continue to work when you're not well, not
Yeah.
just not just in Hollywood, but that goes for all of us who are
Mhm.
always wondering, should I call in today?
Mhm.
Should I
Yeah.
take care of myself?
Yeah.
So it is a difficult line to just to walk on that line. It's so
Mhm.
tough.
Yeah.
But he did it twice in 2020,
Mhm.
and I'll talk a little bit about this at the end. But now officially a Golden Globe winning performance.
I saw that. Yes, I didn't watch the um show, but I saw that he had won, and I'm sure that there are probably really cynical people who are and haters who are like, oh, they just gave it to him because he died, but like, he earned that award for that role. Just,
Yep,
I mean, the amount of like bravado and like both bravado and then also like the just still being able to see the scared little boy that his character was like is to be able to show both of those and sometimes in the same, within minutes of each other, within seconds of each other is, that's talent.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it was I actually watched Ma Rainey before Get On Up, and
Mm,
so I didn't know that this would be he'd be reuniting with Viola Davis in this one,
hmm. Yeah.
and that was just so interesting to see that dynamic in a completely different way.
So different. Yeah.
And that's actually I think that was one of the best scenes in Get On Up is where Mother comes back and they have that conversation.
Mm,
And it's scary because you think, oh my gosh, is he gonna just throw her out? And to see him break down after that was
yeah.
just sobering.
Yeah. Oof. Oof.
It's
Yeah.
it's also weird to draw that parallel with Get On Up and the Five Bloods, because both of those movies have a scene where um his character finds out about Martin Luther King,
Hmm.
and they of course show James Brown, when he goes to Vietnam, and it's like, oh my gosh, the parallels that you can make between these films are just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. They have a lot of similarities, and just I feel like you could do like a lot, a whole, probably a whole paper or podcast or whatever niche you want to do for just discussing those parallels.
Yeah. So yeah, Golden Globe, and I didn't watch the show last night. My mom had it on in the background while I was doing my taxes. That's how interested I was in watching it. So
Your
I caught it.
taxes had your
I,
attention.
well, the thing about award shows this year is you know considering that I haven't been to see any movies in the theater, it's really hard for me to get too
Yes.
attached to award shows when um and I think I posted this on Facebook just last week about Defy Bloods. Is I was one of the reasons I was so late to seeing that is because I struggle with catching new movies when they debut on streaming platforms. There's a pageantry to going to see a
Hmm.
movie in the cinema, even when I'm the only one there.
Hmm.
Sometimes that it's just like, oh, it's big, this big open room, and I'm surrounded by the sound and the giant screen in front of me,
It's an
and
experience.
yeah, I'm not allowed to I'm not allowed to pause it to go get food. You know, I
Yeah.
have to succumb to the will of the projector.
I'm the same way. Like, my family knows that if I don't see a movie in before times, if I didn't see a movie in the theater, getting me to watch a movie at home can be like pulling teeth. My sister Lydia will be like, "Do you want to watch a movie tonight?" And it's like, "No." "Do you want to watch a movie tonight?" "No." So I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
There's something about being in the theater, like going and, getting your popcorn and your snacks and just sitting in that room and having it all around you. It's a part of the enjoyment, and there's a lot lacking that at home.
and I can say um, that Ma Rainey and Defy Bloods are two films that deserve to have been on a big screen. Um, you could, I get tired of the argument from some people who say that we need to stick with streaming just as the way of the future. Who might say go to the cinema to see your Marvels and your big action films and your spectacles, but keep the small stuff at home. And I think, well, like again, Chadwick Boseman's performance in Ma Rainey is so big that it has to be
Hmm.
seen on a screen. And you get films that you know it it may not be a big action spectacle, but small films can still have big moments. They can have big cinematography,
Hmm.
like, and that is something you want to see on a big
Exactly.
screen. You want to be wowed by that.
Exactly. And I think like I mean there's places for it all, and then I think there's also places for everyone to have their different opinions. Like I I know that if I really, really enjoy a movie and like really go to the movies to see it, then that same movie that I might really, really enjoy at my home, like there's plenty of other things I would rather be doing than to just sit and watch a movie. So I don't know. But yeah, I do definitely agree that Ma Rainey, like that performance, even knowing that like, you can definitely feel that it was adapted from a play and, and some of the issues that I think a lot of people had that, you really only see a few locations. Like, who cares? It's not about the locations. It's about like what's actually happening in those locations. And what's happening is some damn good storytelling and acting. So while you might be able to tell, it's not anything that's like, well, I just hated that it was based on a play. Like, no, that was good.
Yeah, there's a difference between I don't know what I'm trying to think here, but you're right. It's based on a play, and it still feels wonderfully cinematic. Um, again, you're
Hmm.
right. We're stuck in mostly two different locations throughout the movie, but just what goes on in there doesn't feel static. I
Hmm.
have, I've watched oh, what was it? I've talked about movies on this show where that were adapted from plays. Oh, um, like the original 1931 Dracula was adapted from a play, and
Hmm.
I've talked about that film. It's like that film feels wildly static, even though there's more than two locations in that movie. And it's just because it was 1931. It was
Hmm.
one of the first talking horror films, so they didn't know exactly how to handle it. I don't think, and it's like cinema has evolved so much in 100 years that you can now take a stage play and you can really make something out of it without fundamentally changing what it is.
Hmm.
So, and I think they did an excellent job. And yeah, what a remarkable cast all around. Just
Hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope that both of them, I hope that both Defy Bloods and Ma Rainey eventually find their way onto physical releases because I hate
Yeah.
I think Netflix is one of the most easily accessible of the streaming services for most people, but
Hmm.
it's I still consider it in a small way. It's like you're gatekeeping it um, to your service that requires an internet connection, which every now and then
Hmm.
those things will go out,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that is it's like I've never had it happen, but like if I was in the middle of watching Ma Rainey and suddenly my internet died, I would just be
Mm.
like, "What?"
Wow. Yeah, it would be so jarring in a film like that. Take you right out of it.
Like, oh man, all the momentum is just lost right there. So I hope that they do manage to see a physical release
Hmm.
because I also just like I love if it's a movie I love, I want it in my collection for sure.
I hear that. Yeah. I think for me, as someone, like I said, who it's hard for me to watch movies at home when I say I would buy that movie. Like that is like high praise. That's really high praise from me for a movie.
That is, I will say, as much as I enjoy the cinema, we do differ in that sense. So I will just if I like a movie, it's like I'll just go out and buy it for sure.
I hear that. I hear
But
that.
yeah,
I think
but
I'm gonna get better. The pandemic is definitely making me better in terms of watching movies. Like, I mean, I've watched more movies in this past, like, since Christmas at home. It's probably more movies this month that in that time period for me. which is probably more than I watched all movies last year, like the whole year.
Wow.
Yeah. And it still feels like, man, that's been a lot of movies. But for you, it's probably like nothing.
Well, I also like, I also we also just want to get back to our thing, and
Mm-hmm.
for us that's doing our own art,
For
and that'll just
sure.
that'll keep us from having to deal with movies.
For
Plus,
sure.
once we're back to work in theater, we can always just talk to all the friends and say, hey, do you want to go see this movie in a theater? Please,
Yes.
for the love of God.
I would imagine that once like we can, like look, I would go to the movies all the time. Like, I mean, I really will anytime. Like if someone says, "Hey, let's go to a movie," I'm like, "Oh, okay." But once this is all over, movies all the time. Let's make a date.
Damn right. Oh, so there's a big role that Chadwick Boseman filled in his career, and he played it 4 times. That is, of course, the role of T'Challa, the Black Panther. I
Yes.
I remember late 2015. It was one of the first trailers that dropped for Captain America: Civil War, and we all, the big news, of course, had been, oh, Spider-Man's in it, but this trailer didn't show off Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
This trailer did, however, show off about 2 seconds, and that was enough. 2 seconds of Chadwick in the costume, and that was enough for me to just be super duper excited.
Yes.
Um, I've heard a really interesting story about how Black Panther actually wasn't originally supposed to be in the movie.
Hmm.
Um, they actually, Spider-Man had been planned from the get-go. They had apparently been talking with Sony, and at one point Sony said, no, it's not going
Mm-hmm.
to happen. And at that point they said, well, who the heck can we bring in who's going to have as big of an impact as Spider-Man? And they said, well, we can bring in Black Panther. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh,
Mm.
like, yeah. And this is thankfully in the post Perlmutter era of Marvel, after he had been let go from the films, because they'd been teasing for so many years. In Age of Ultron, they teased Vibranium, they teased
Mm-hmm.
Ulysses Claw, and I
Yeah.
think they even name drop Wakanda in that movie. And it's like, are we going to get there? Are we going to get there? And so to finally see him in that costume was just so amazing. And then we got Spider-Man in it anyways. But the important thing is, oh my gosh, here he is, Black Panther. And when I saw it, it was like Chadwick, you did it again. You stole the show. Um, not
Yeah.
only was he one of the best written characters in the film, but just what he brought to it was
Mm-hmm.
just there was a humanity that he brought to it that by this time, and I think that's a part of the whole point of this story, is that all the other characters are starting to forget or question.
Yeah.
Um, I just I love what he brings in the beginning when he's talking about to Natasha about um, death is there's death is death can be bad, but it's not all bad. There's a piece to it, and how he's able to completely turn that on its head at the end of the film, when instead of either killing Zemo or letting him kill himself, he says, no, your punishment is you don't get that release.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And, um, the living are not through with you yet. It's something he says like that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely, again, it's like, how does he do it? I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
so good.
It's just there's a gravity to him, or there was a gravity to him. And it feels, like he feels like one of those people who are almost otherworldly. Even just looking at, the characters we've already talked about, they've been very different and very almost disparate in times, um, and yet like given such humanity by him. Um, Even when he's playing someone who isn't always likable. Like Levy in Ma Rainey was not exactly likable. James Brown isn't always likable. Um, and so just to have that ability um, to be able to showcase these people who aren't always showing their best selves, but he's showing the best of them. And that says a lot about the best of him for me.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, he brought out the best of T'Challa for sure in Civil War. Um, just this character who is split down the middle of, is it, am I doing this for revenge or am I doing this for justice?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for
Because
him
that had to be
to,
a hard line, having
yeah.
lost his dad and whatnot.
So I think it was given the circumstances of how they wrote his story into it, just he was sort of the perfect person to be caught in the middle of everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it did well to set up his own story in Black Panther. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm it just it I wish they would do this with more characters, with more major characters, is introduce them, in a movie and then bring them in, get people excited, because
Yeah.
people were excited for Black Panther. Very, very excited. Um, I was shocked at how well it did when it opened. But at the same time was like delighted as heck to see how well it did, and just to take Chadwick, who at this point now he's no longer a freshman, you know,
Mm-hmm. No, he wasn't.
at this point, and then to throw him in with literally like some of the best actors out there was just it is you know the coolness of the whole ensemble of the Avengers notwithstanding, as far as
Mm-hmm.
like an ensemble of actors is concerned, it's Black Panther is their best film.
For sure. I mean, it's definitely my favorite. That and the first Avengers are probably my favorite Marvel movies for sure. Um, and I think when you think about the fact that for Black Panther, that was uh, the first time that a Black character led a superhero film, and that's important. Like that's more important than a lot of people want to think, um, but it is because representation is super important. I mean, there are tons of studies that say that, and we're still having to to beat this drum. But even still, like it's still, I mean, at this point, really the only, like, I mean, yeah, I guess Blade kind of counts, but like not really. Um, and especially not the original Blade, not, when it was first made, perhaps with the reboot that is coming. Um, but I mean, in terms of comic book movies, in terms of Hollywood blockbusters, I don't think that there are very many that many people can say this is culturally important, and Black Panther is one of those things. So,
Yep, absolutely agree on that. And I love that you brought up Blade, because people are going to argue that, but again, Blade feels less like a superhero movie and more like an action horror film.
right.
And also they're rated R, and for good reason. Um, part of why Black Panthers is so much more important is that, and again, it comes down to that rating, is that you finally have a superhero for Black children to look up to. Blade may not um, Blade may not be the best one to look up to. um,
Yeah, not quite.
Blade is cool, but Blade does not exemplify the ideals of the superhero that we should be
For sure.
watching out for.
For sure.
And yeah, you're absolutely right about, like, I think Hollywood is, it's super slow, but I think some studios are starting to come around to that whole concept of, oh, this is important because we're reaching a whole new audience. There's a reason that Black Panther and Captain Marvel have been two of the most successful non-Avengers Marvel films of the last few years, is because we finally have a Black superhero. We finally have a woman in a
Yeah.
superhero role leading her own film.
Yeah,
So,
female-led superhero movie that's super important. And I think, yeah, you're always gonna have those gatekeeping fanboys who are like, talking about pandering and whatnot, like, but don't necessarily think that 7 James Bond movies and every other white superhero movie isn't pandering. Like, it's like, come on, give me a break.
oh, you're absolutely right. Especially those early James Bond movies, they were made with men in mind.
For
Absolutely.
sure. And I mean, they have their place. Like, and I do still think they obviously still have an audience who love them. Um, but I just think in terms of, I mean, even now there's a lot of pushback and a lot of, Hollywood executive types who still at this point try to play the game of, oh, well, with a black lead, a movie won't make money. How much money did Black Panther make? Let's put that to rest.
Yeah.
I think
So yeah.
it's just kind of a question of, do they want to do it? And for a lot of people, I don't necessarily think that they do, but I think that a lot of people are starting to see, like, whether they want to or not, they're gonna lose out and like not make as much money if they don't.
And yeah, they should, because, like you said, it's not my favorite of all of them, but Black Panther is still one of the best movies that they've made. And yeah, the most culturally significant for sure. And I think wildly bold as well, just to tell the story that they told. Um,
And I mean, even
like,
just from like not going off of like not just Chadwick in that movie, but like, you have a number of strong female characters in that movie, and you have just examples of strength and leadership that is not just like patriarchal. So I think that there's a lot that's important and shows a lot that's important in that movie.
so in the same year that Black Panther came out, Avengers Infinity War came out, and man, I wish he had more to do in that, but he gets a wonderful intro. And if you ever listen, if anyone out there ever get a chance to listen to on YouTube, just like a recording of audience reactions to stuff that goes on in Infinity War, his appearance always gets a thunderous applause, as it should. And even though he's not in too much of the film, it is so cool to see that Wakanda is a huge, place in this film. It's important,
Hmm.
and his leadership is important in that film, and it's just as important in Endgame. It's so hard to look back on those two movies now and think they were clearly setting him up as, and we talked about this on a Marvel episode that we did. way back in the beginning of the show, um, I said they're clearly setting him up to be one of the big leaders of the
Mhm.
Avengers now that Captain America and Iron Man are out. You've got to have a couple of characters come in and take over that mantle. And it's like he's one of them.
Yeah.
And we recorded that episode on like August 20th or something like that. And then it was a week later,
Mm.
and it was just that was harsh to look back on that now and think this was a great direction they were going in.
Mhm.
How do you pick up the pieces from this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a hard one. That is definitely going to be a. I mean, I would not want to be, one of the Marvel team, like, trying to figure stuff out, following that. Uh, and even from a fan standpoint, I think um, it was upsetting, and I even like found myself like questioning why I was so upset with his death because I'm like, you don't know him. He's not a personal friend. He's not even an acquaintance. Like you don't even know him. But it was upsetting because you have this figure who has brought to life so many Black icons. And now, a really huge Black icon and one of the foremost Black superheroes. And really seemed to be someone who tried to carry like superhero ideals. Like, I think a lot of us who are superhero fans still have this little idea that like some people do have like superhero ideals and are superhero kind of people. And so I feel like that for me was one of the reasons that his passing was so upsetting.
yes, one of my favorite moments in Endgame is just seeing him being the first person to come through a portal.
Mm,
To me, that was the moment where it's like, yep, this is Captain America passing the torch. And it's like he's not he gets to pass the torch twice in that film, but this is him passing the torch to T'Challa saying, um, "When I'm gone," which ended up being almost right away. When I'm
yeah,
gone, I trust you to be the person to lead everyone if this should ever happen again, and we
yeah,
know it's gonna.
yeah. Of course, there's always going to be some bad guy. The good guys have to fight.
So,
Yeah, that was a pretty cool part.
and I honestly have no idea what they have in store for Black Panther 2, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad that Ryan Coogler is back writing the script and directing it because after what he brought with the first one, I
Hmm.
trust that he understands these characters and this world enough to tell the story that needs to be told. And for anyone out there who didn't hasn't been up to date on the Black Panther 2 news, Marvel has come forth and said we're not going to recast the role of T'Challa. We are not going to digitally um, put him into the film.
Hmm.
Um, for the time being, that character is essentially retired from the big screen, which is, I think, absolutely the right call. Um,
Agreed. Agreed. With that kind of character in that portrayal, you can't. You just can't do it. Have somebody else try to step into those shoes or recast it. Like it's just not the way. This is not the way. Mm-mm.
yeah, they, and this is even coming from a universe where they have an opportunity to bring back other characters with a multiverse scenario, coming
Hmm.
right on up. They could always bring back a new person as Tony Stark from a different universe or a new Steve
Hmm.
Rogers. But that T'Challa is one that they just should not touch right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Well, I don't think we needed to actually talk as much about the Golden Globe win as I had thought because we both did
We
not
touched
watch
on
the
it.
show. We touched
And
on
yeah.
it. I, I didn't watch the show. Again,
Mm-mm.
I it's crazy to think that we had already had the Oscars at this point a year ago, and
Right.
I don't even know.
Wow,
I don't
you're
even know
right.
if they actually have an awards ceremony planned for the Oscars this year.
I'm sure they will, because I think there's only been 1 year in history, I think, where there hasn't been an Academy Awards, and I think that was like way, way, way back, probably in like the 30s or
Yeah,
40s.
I'm
I
sure they will.
mean,
They're
yeah,
probably just figuring out how the heck they do it.
yeah.
And I'll be very disappointed if Chadwick Boseman is not nominated when they do and make those announcements because
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're
I
right.
just
It's already March. It is March 1st today. And we just had the Golden Globes. We haven't had the Oscars. We're in weird times, man.
we are in very weird times. Yeah, and we're still we're still in that weird time where we're still trying to figure out you know Black Widow opens up in 2 months and
Hmm.
Disney hasn't said yay or nay to we're going to throw this onto Disney Plus. It's like
Interesting.
you're running out of time,
That's
you
really
know.
interesting. I think that, what do you think about that? What do you think that says?
Um, well, I've said this so many times on the show. I do think that it is time for Disney to start releasing these movies now that they've dropped WandaVision and are planning to drop these television shows that are supposed to interconnect with the films.
Hmm.
So either either they hold off on releasing the films and start postponing these TV shows, or they find some way to get them to us. Um, I've also said there's a possibility, once Black Widow opens in May, so there's a possibility that by then we'll see more drive-in theaters opening up,
That's true.
like we did last year, and maybe even more so this year. Now that some companies might be thinking about it and not just having it be a spur of the moment thing that they do.
Hmm.
Um,
Like, have it be
but
deliberate.
because they kind of dropped the ball last year with Tenet um, opening in theaters, and I was lucky to catch it at a drive-through, but that was not the ideal thing to do. Um, so we'll see how they handle it. But I I wouldn't mind if it did come to Disney Plus for now. But as some of us have said on the show, it'd also be great if by the time cinemas are open again, movies like Tenet and some of these big films that we've all wanted to go see in the theater
Can be
can
back.
be re-released. Give
Yeah,
them that month that they lost.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I could see that. That would be cool to happen.
I think I
Uh,
froze.
you did.
Can you still hear me? You
I
still
can hear you. Hmm.
okay? Uh okay. Well, we'll just soldier on through it then.
Zoom and all its fun.
Yep. Do you have any other personal reflections or closing thoughts before we get on to the final segment of the show?
Um, let's see. No, I think we've touched on pretty much everything I thought. Um, yeah, I feel like I've said all I needed to say.
All right. We're going to move on to the final segment of the show, which is, of course, trivia. So this week's trivia, this should be fun.
Okay.
So this summer, Marvel is supposed to have an animated series coming to Disney Plus called What If,
Okay.
which of course follows the comic book series of the same name, which sort of tells stories of what if so and so or had been this character, or what if this event had happened
Mm.
differently. And from what I have heard, Chadwick Boseman actually did record dialogue for this show, so
I
we
heard
will get
that.
to see him, or at least see his animated self and hear his beautiful voice for Marvel one more time. So my question is, which of the following characters has Marvel actually? I didn't write this question down. I'm just coming up with it. But
Okay.
I have the multiple
Okay.
choice answers. So which of the following characters did Marvel have T'Challa take the role of
Mm.
in What If? Does he take the role of Iron Man, B, Hulk, C, Star Lord, or D, Thor?
Mm. Okay. Iron Man, Hulk, Star-Lord, Thor. I'm gonna say Thor.
All right. Well, Larice, unfortunately, you're still in good company, but and it could happen, but at this point, it has been confirmed and it's actually been shown he will actually be Star Lord for an episode.
Dang it, I should have went with my first mind.
Yep, apparently they've shown a little clip of him being abducted by Yondu, and he gets to wear the cool mask, so that should be fun.
Cool. That will be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And apparently it's going to be like the last time we also hear like Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. So
Mm.
getting the band back together should be fun.
I mean, I will just say that I was not expecting Endgame to be as sad as it was. Like, I mean, I knew it was probably going to be sad, but like, I was like, this is a comic book movie. I shouldn't be like crying all this much in a comic book movie.
Yeah, it's a when I I think I saw it. I think I saw it the first time with Catherine. I I think,
Mm.
and we got to the point where Black Widow and Hawkeye
Mm.
are going to get the Soul Stone, and it didn't even hit me until like after they talked to Red Skull. I was like, oh no, we're about to lose
Mm.
somebody here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and then yeah, for to see Iron Man and actually at the very end, when Cap was dancing with Peggy,
Hmm.
was when yeah, what it was. Catherine was with me. I remember because we were sitting there at the back of the we were in the back of the auditorium and we were bawling because that's the same song that was playing when my grandfather came home from service and walked
Mm.
into the kitchen
Oh,
and saw his wife for the first time in years. So I was like,
wow.
oh no,
So
how
double
did
whammy. Double whammy
yeah,
for you too.
like oh why Marvel? How'd you know?
Right? They know how to pull your heartstrings, man.
Yep. Oh, so that is thank you, Larice. That has been a good show. Thank you everyone out there for watching. I'm still frozen on my screen. I don't know how I
You
look for
are.
everyone
You
else.
are. You look
Watching my
thankfully good.
thankfully I look good. My frozen face. So yeah, this has been the Sunday matinee. You can catch us on YouTube, which you better be because that's the only place I put it up right now. Um, we are on Facebook at facebook.com/truth in film, on Twitter at Sunday underscore matinee. And I've got the blog, truthinfilm.wordpress.com. And I swear I'm going to put something on that blog at some point. I should probably stop recording, these live episodes and maybe start writing stuff again. Who knows? Um, thank you so much, Larice. It
Yes,
was a
thank you for
pleasure
having
having you
me.
here.
This is fun. Let's do it again.
Oh, absolutely. And my apologies to all of my regular panelists for the next month. It's been great to see some new faces this month, including yours, Larice. Next month is going to be weird because we're doing like the whole Godzilla thing all month long, and so if you've been watching the show for a while, you're going to see a lot of unfamiliar faces because, as it turns out, most of my regular panelists aren't big Godzilla fans like me. So I have to bring people in to discuss King Kong versus Godzilla. But first off, next week we have a full panel discussing WandaVision now that it is going to be over and spoiling the heck out of that and just figuring out, did Marvel successfully do TV? I'll spoil that right now. The answer is yes, they did. They did very good. Um, so that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining us for episode 22 on this wonderful Monday in March. Um, I'm sorry my face is frozen, but once it thaws, I'll have a good day and you have a good day too.
Bye.